Hello and welcome to Memo Anime Recaps. Do not forget to like and subscribe. We are introduced to friends, Yuito and Nagi. They are new recruits for the OTF, the other suppression force. Their induction ceremony is about to start, and Yuito is the face of the new recruits. Yuito is the son of Joe Sumeragi, the chairman of New Himuka. New Himuka is the nation's name, and Joe is the founder. Yuito's older brother is Kaito, and he is the supreme commander of the New Himuka OSF. Everyone is surprised that the son of an important person like Joe has decided to join the Scarlet Guardians and fight on the front lines. Before the ceremony, the alarm goes off that the others are attacking. Two of the OSF's best, General Karen and Spring, take care of the threat without any hitch. Shortly afterward, Yuito and Nagi join the rest of the recruits at the hall for their induction. While sitting down, Nagi and Yuito notice two girls, Kasani and Naomi Randall. It appears that the two are twin sisters. Nagi has already fallen for Naomi at first sight. Moments later, Kaito enters the hall to deliver the welcome speech. He welcomes both the Scout Brigade and the Cadet Brigade. The Scout Brigade has naturally outstanding innate psionics, while the Cadet Brigades forge their psionics in training. The OSF's task is to fight the enemies, the others. They know little about the others except for the fact that they descend from the extinction belt in the stratosphere. He urges the recruits to go about their duties diligently. After the recruits leave the hall, Nagi and Yuito sit down to have a discussion. Yuito reveals that he was saved from the others when he was 5. It was a woman who was in the OSF back then. Yuito is still in the middle of this when Nagi cuts him short. He has been making findings about Naomi. With the report he has in front of him, it turns out that Naomi and Kasan's parents were killed by the others when they were children. The Randalls then adopted the duo. At age 12, Naomi was scouted by the OSF and entered the training program. Now in the women's locker room, we see Naomi and Kasan discussing too. Kasan tells Naomi that she has the Red Strings dream again. She has no idea what the dream means, but she is concerned about protecting Naomi in case they are assigned to the same platoon. Later on, Yuito and Nagi run into Yuito's childhood friend, Hanabi. Hanabi is in the Scout Brigade, and this is the reason they have not run into each other in the past. After this, they are directed to the Seto platoon where they will serve under Commander Seto. Seto's psionic power is electrokinesis. The recruits then introduce themselves. Hanabi's power is pyrokinesis. Nagi's psionic power is aerokinesis. Yuito's psionic power is psychokinesis. The active members also introduce themselves. Tsugumi and Kagero are the active members of the platoon. Just as they finish their introductions, the alarm goes off to inform them that the others are descending at a particular location. The platoons are ordered to move out immediately and engage the enemies. Wataru, whose psionic power is telepathy, will be in charge of communications. Upon getting to the site of engagement, Seto orders Yuito and Nagi to stay back, while he and the others engage the enemies. The Kyoka platoon also arrives on the scene. Kasane and Naomi are serving in the Kyoka platoon. Yuito and Nagi are still waiting for further instructions when they realize that a kid is in danger. The duo doesn't hesitate to go after the kid. They are ordered to stay back and wait for backup, but the duo says the kid might be dead before then. Yuito and Nagi engage the other, but they are still new at this, so they look clumsy. Yuito manages to get the kid to safety, but the duo are still having a hard time with the enemy. Just then, Naomi and Kasane arrive to support them. Naomi's psionic power is precognition, and Kasane's psionic power is psychokinesis. Kasane and Yuito manage to defeat the others. The others turn into petal-like stuff when they are defeated. After this, we are introduced to Arashi, whose power is hypervelocity. There is also Luca Tavers, and he is Karen's little brother. Luca and his brother both have teleportation powers. Luca informs the recruits that they lost 2 OSF soldiers during the battle. Their heads are gone because the others consumed the human brain. Later on, the recruits are praised for their excellent performance on their first day. Up next, Naomi and Kasan decide to have a fun time since they are off duty for the day. Meanwhile, Yuito and Nagi have decided to leave the facility for the day. Yuito suspects that the OSF soldier who saved him was Kasan. He suspects that she might have undergone growth suppression, but Nagi is not convinced. Let's take a moment to explain how the psionic powers work. We all have amazing power in our brains. Thanks to this power, the citizens are able to link to the Senate and do all sorts of things. They can shop, search for information, and receive messages. There are ones with greater powers known as psionics. They are the Scarlet Guardians serving in the OSF. Soon afterward, Nagi and Yuito arrive at the Sumeragi Mausoleum. Sumeragi was a hero who saved humanity from annihilation, and he is New Himuka's founding father. He is also Yuito's ancestor. They are surprised when they find Naomi and Kasan at the mausoleum. They are there to collect bakis. They collect the bakis, and when they open them, they don't expect what they see. Nagi, Yuito, and Kasan all have misfortunes, while Naomi is the only one with good fortune. Naomi then collects their notes, and ties them to hers. This way, she believes that her fortune will rub off their misfortune. Meanwhile, Kaito has gone to inform his father that the Seiran Regional Force is up to something. The chairman then asks if Kaito is hearing from his brother. He reveals that he has not spoken to him since the induction. He doesn't want people to believe that Yuito is receiving special treatment. In the next scene, Yuito and the rest of the recruits gather for a joint training session between the platoons. The first platoon to get the flag in the middle of the arena wins the match. The training begins, and Kasan intentionally goes after Yuito. She is aware that Naomi is already into Yuito. She wants to find out if Yuito is a suitable match for her sister, and this is the reason she has decided to fight him. During the battle, Naomi tells Nagi that her power allows her to see some seconds into the future. Kasan doesn't hold back when fighting Yuito, and she ends up throwing the match for her team. Yuito's team won the session while Kasan's team lost. Arashi was just sleeping throughout the battle. She doesn't even behave like someone who has super speed. She is the laziest person in the OSF. After the training session, Kasan approaches Yuito and commends him. She says Yuito is able to keep his head, and she is impressed. However, she still wants to dig deeper into Yuito. Just then, Yuito receives a message from his father. The chairman congratulated him on his induction into the OSF. He tells him to find time for dinner, so he and his brother can come and see him. Yuito's father wants to tell him about their family and his late mother. Suddenly, the alarm goes off that the enemy is gathering at a certain location. The platoons make their way to the site. They are to enter the site through the ventilation system. Communications with the HQ will be one way because of the low altitude. They enter the tunnel and they start engaging the others in no time. Just then, the soldiers lose total comms with HQ. They are now on their own. The teams are soon attacked by a giant others. It takes a joint effort to kill the others. However, Naomi and Nagi are trapped under rubble during the battle. Naomi communicates with the team, and she informs them that another wave of the others is approaching. The team manages to get Naomi and Nagi out from under the rubble. Kasan is happy to see her sister, and she starts moving closer to her. Just then, Naomi realizes that someone is trying to shoot Kasan. Just as the unknown person fires the gun, Naomi jumps on her sister to save her. She is happy to see that her sister is safe and sound. The atmosphere changes when everyone realizes that the bullet penetrated Naomi's chest instead. Red liquid starts dripping everywhere and Naomi falls to the ground. A crystal-like shape starts forming around her body. The white stuff finishes growing inside of Naomi and she transforms into a others. Kasan is still trying to converse with her, but the others knock her to the ground. The team attacks the others, but Nagi is just there on his knees without an idea of what to do. Suddenly, two guys appear and use teleportation magic to move the transformed Naomi out of there. Everyone inside the cave is still trying to figure out what is happening when General Fubuki arrives. He tells the team not to disclose the details of what happened to anyone. He tells them to indicate in their reports that Naomi died in battle. Kasan is not ready to accept that. She tries running away from the scene, but Karen appears and knocks her out. Fubuki leaves the scene and tells Captain Gemma to take care of the rest. Before leaving the scene, Yuito sees some branded bottles on the floor and he secretly takes them without telling anyone else about them. Later on, Kasan wakes up on her bed. She receives a message from her mother blaming her for Naomi's death. She gets outside of her room and runs into Karen. Karen tells her that the Seirans are the ones who took Naomi away. They are the only ones that can return Naomi to human form, he says. He wants Kasan to trust her, but it is doubtful that Kasan will do that after the stunt Karen pulled. Karen tells Kasan not to look for Naomi, and she should not tell anybody what he just told her. She might be in danger if she does so. Karen leaves by telling Kasan not to trust the new Himukans. After her conversation with Karen, Kasan finds Yuito and she tells him everything that Karen told her. Yuito then shows Kasan the ampule he found earlier on. The ampule has Seiran's mark on it. Kasan had seen something like that in her house before. She tells Yuito to keep everything between them. Yuito then reveals that Nagi has been hospitalized since the last battle. He talks about how Nagi has been his only friend and has been the only person treating him as a normal person. Later on, we see Gemma, Karen, and other people having a meeting on how to destroy the nation. Soon afterward, a forecast comes in that a huge wave of the others will attack the Kunad Highway. The civilians have been evacuated in preparation for the battle. As the soldiers move out, Nagi appears from behind and tells them to wait for him. Yuito is surprised to see him discharged from the hospital very early. Nagi looks friendlier than before, and he is not even acting like Naomi is missing. When Yuito asks him about Naomi, Nagi says Naomi is dead. Yuito can clearly see that something is wrong with Nagi, because he can't remember that Naomi turned to the others and she is not dead. They soon arrive at the site where they are supposed to find the others, but there is no sign of the enemy. Seto asks Wataru for an update, but the signal gets jammed and the team is unable to communicate with each other. Suddenly, they look up to find Gemma and some other OSF soldiers surrounding them. They are confused, and they ask Gemma what he is up to. Gemma accuses Seto of being involved in some sort of horrific research. Sato has no idea of what Gemma is accusing him of. Just then, Luca arrives and offers to provide support for the team while they escape. Everything turns sour when his brother also shows up. Luca tries to fight Karen, but his brother appears to be miles ahead of him when it comes to combat. Karen is called the Brain Eater because he can copy other people's power and use it for himself. Gemma says the nation has been lying to them and the nation needs to be destroyed. Meanwhile, Nagi is having a severe headache. After he regains himself, Nagi seems like a completely different person. Fight soon breaks out between the two factions and it seems Nagi has switched sides. He takes on Kasan and Yuito all by himself. Sato and Gemma are also fighting each other. Sato is trying to know why Gemma has made the decision to turn on his comrades. On the other hand, Yuito is reluctant to fight his friend because he knows that he has been acting weird since he got back from the hospital. Nagi is still insisting that Naomi is dead. Kasane tries to jog his memory and make him remember that Naomi was turned into an other, but Nagi can't seem to remember. Nagi starts creating a powerful tornado that catches the attention of almost everyone at the scene. Nagi attacks his friends with a powerful air attack, but Sato is able to neutralize it. Sato says Nagi's power level is unusually elevated. Sato stands in between Yuito and Nagi. Sato tells him that he will regret his actions if he kills Yuito, so he can't allow him to do that. Just then, Nagi attacks Sato with a powerful airwave that Sato is able to counter. Unknown to him, Nagi already has another set of attacks coming from his back. Sato is left open, and Nagi is able to mortally wound Sato. Sato still manages to run to where Sato is and deliver a jolt to his head to knock him out. Suddenly, a portal opens in the sky and it starts to pull everything underneath the circle in. Yuito and Kasane get sucked into the portal. Gemma tries to hold on to Sito's body, but the force from the portal is too much. Sito's body gets sucked in also, and Gemma starts to feel guilty about the decisions he made. Gemma and the rest of the team would have gotten sucked in too, but Luca arrives just in time to save and move them away. Inside the portal, Kasan and Yuito are still wondering what is happening when a couple of red strings appear and hold Kasan. Yuito suddenly starts to fall out of the portal back to the ground. Yuito finally opens his eyes when he gets to the ground to see his friends around him. Gemma is also happy to see that Yuito is still alive and he apologizes for his mistake. Meanwhile, the Senate is also down and no one can access it. Yuito and the team make their way to a shelter nearby. At the shelter, Gemma then starts to explain the reasons for his actions. He says the new Himukan government aims to build surveillance centered on the capital, Suo. They conducted medical exams to find suitable people to use. The growths of the selected are suppressed to maintain their psionic powers. Gemma believed that all of this was being done to defeat the others, so he didn't have any issue with it. However, the program didn't stop there. They started working on the personality rehabilitation program. Everyone who participated in the program started acting like a different person. Gemma says there are possibilities that their personalities were manipulated. All these were done under the government's order. Gemma believes that Nagi's personality has been altered too because of the way he was acting. Gemma then tells the team that he was informed that Sato was into some inhumane research. Gemma regrets believing Karen over his own friend. Gemma is now aware that Karen has another objective. He is not only trying to oppose the government, he has something else in store. Shortly afterward, reports come in that a large number of others have invaded the city. The defense system is currently inoperable and there is no way to take care of the enemies. The Arahabaki, which houses the Senate, is down. Later on, Kasan wakes up around the Kunad highway. Her platoon is with her. She starts to wonder if everything that happened was a dream. She looks around to realize that the highway and everything is destroyed. Gemma and the rest of the team make their way into the city to engage the others. While they are out there fighting, Wataru contacts them and informs them the Seiran Regional Force has surrounded the HQ. It appears that a coup is underway. It seems that Karen plans to take over the government. Karen is now with the Serans. Just then, it dawns on Yuito that his father will need to be sacked before Karen can take over the government. Yuito refuses to go to the HQ to check on his father. He stayed with his team to fight the others. Now in the HQ, Kaito starts thinking of ways to move the chairman out of the building. It is going to be a big problem because Karen knows all the ways that lead out of the building. Kaito is then informed that the chairman's whereabouts are currently unknown. Back in the city, Yuito is still in shock as to why Karen will betray the OSF. Karen has always been regarded as OSF's star, and the people love him. Yuito is convinced that his father sure knows about everything happening. Moments later, General Fubuki arrives and the team informs him that Sato has been killed in action. Fubuki doesn't seem to be in cohorts with Karen. He decides to take the team under his wing. Fubuki orders Yuito and the rest of the team to make their way to the HQ and look for the chairman. He wants them to find the chairman and the rest of the council members to keep them safe. He says the chairman and other council members are headed to a shelter, but contact has been lost. He tells the team to proceed with caution because not all of the OSF is on their side. Meanwhile, Yuito is worried that there has been no news about Kagero, Kyoka, and her platoon. Moments later, all of the broadcast system comes back online. Karen uses the broadcast system to inform the citizens and everyone who is watching of his plans to overthrow the government. He accuses the government of using the Senate to spy on the citizens. He doesn't believe that the government has the interest of the people in their hearts. He says the government has always eliminated all those that have come against them. They have been carrying out all sorts of injustice, and he wants to put a stop to it with the help of the Syrian. Yuito and his team soon run into the others. Gemma tells Yuito that the team will engage the others. He should leave them and go after his dad. Yuito finds an OSF soldier who directs him to where his father is headed. Yuito remembers the first day he told his father about his intentions to join the OSF. His father was worried because his psionic abilities were low. He then remembers the day his father congratulated him for making it into the OSF. All these memories serve as inspiration for Yuito, and he cuts through the enemies in front of him ferociously. Yuito finally makes it to the shelter where his father is heading. He sees the bodies of people who were killed by the others lying on the floor. He hears a scream in the distance, and he runs there to check. Meanwhile, the chairman is about to be attacked by an other when an unknown OSF agent arrives to save him. Yuito gets there seconds later to see Kasan standing over his father's dead body. She is holding a knife in her hand. The scene then takes us back to when Kasan woke up on the Kunad highway. Kyoga tells her that Yuito is missing. Kasan and her platoon decide to head back to the city to find out what is happening. They get to the city to find out that it is no longer functional. The city is in ruins, and this throws them into confusion. They make their way into a destroyed research facility. Kasan sees some ampules on the floor, and he recognizes them as the type that Yuito showed her. They also have Siren markings on them. Suddenly, Karen appears behind them and grabs Kasan's head. He absorbs some of her power and runs away. They are surprised that Karen came to steal Kasan's power because he has been able to perform psychokinesis for years. Arashi runs after Karen, but she loses him. The platoon cannot bother themselves with Karen at the moment. They decide to continue their investigation into the city. They soon run into a masked man who wears a samurai hat. He attacks the platoon with his sword. Judging from his technique, power, and the baki in his possession, Kasane asks him if he is Yuito. The masked man stops his assault when he hears this name. He then asks if he is talking to Kasane. They are surprised when he mentions the names of each member of the platoon. Arashi is able to figure out what is happening. She asks the masked man if they are in the year 2020, but he tells them that they are not. They are in the future, which is the year 2070. Kasan is shocked to hear this. They have no idea how they found themselves in the future. It seems that the man is truly Yuito, but he is now blind. This doesn't hold him back because he appears to be even better than when he had his two eyes. The future Yuito then tells Kasane that the portal is responsible for their time travel. Kasan's actual power is not psychokinesis, but gravikinesis. Her ability to manipulate dimensions only appeared as psychokinesis. Yuito says Kasan has the power to time travel. He adds that the power of the red strings belongs to her. Yuito then narrates that after Karen's revolt, New Himmelks decided to make him their new hero. His father was killed, and Kasan was blamed for the murder. After this, the violence between Suo and Seiran grew worse. As time goes on, the portal creates a gate that has been sustaining itself by using Yuito's energy power. This is because Yuito's power is similar to that of Kasane. In short, he is capable of time travel too. Yuito and Kasan's powers resonated together to create the portal which later created the gate. Yuito reveals that the gate now threatens the existence of the whole world. Yuito then begs Kasan to kill him. He also wants her to return to her time 50 years ago and kill the Yuito there. Yuito explains that the red strings are capable of activating time travel, and they deal with emotions. He reveals that his father started the experiment that created the substance that was able to turn humans into the others, just like Naomi. He took over the research from his father when he died. These are the reasons he needs to die to preserve humanity. Yuito asks Kasan to kill him, but Kasan finds it difficult. Just then, several others arrive on the scene. Yuito had already signaled them so that they could kill him in case Kasan refused. Pounce on Yuito and kill him. With emotions running through her body, Kasan activates the red strings and travels back to 2020. Kasan receives info from Haruka that the city is about to be thrown into chaos. Kasane hopes that the future is now different since she has some idea about how it works. She arrives when Karen is making the coup announcement. Kasan sees Kagero in the distance and decides to follow him. Kagero enters the council shelter and Kasan follows him. She soon finds the chairman in the pool of his own tomato sauce. Kasan then asks the chairman if he truly knows about how Naomi was turned into an other, and he says yes. Moments later, the present Yuito finds Kasan standing over his father's body. This brings us up to speed on how Kasan ended up being the one standing above the chairman's body. Yuito asks Kasan what happened to his father, but Kasan doesn't reply, and she just comes after Yuito. Yuito's team arrives and Kasan retreats when she realizes that she is outnumbered. She runs into Kagero outside the building. He says he was trying to save the council members, but apparently he has failed. Kasane also meets up with her platoon. Kasan and her team sit down for a meeting about what to do. They are contemplating whether to kill Yuito or not. They need to kill him if they don't want the world to be destroyed. Just then, Karen appears, and says he has been looking for Kasan. Meanwhile, Kaito has been informed that Arahabaki's recovery work is now complete. Later on, Gemma informs Yuito and the rest that they were able to trace Kasan to the Kyoka platoon. They believe that Kasan and Kyoka's platoon are also in cohorts with Karen. It seems Yuito has finally realized that his father and his brother had some shady deals going on. Shortly afterward, the team realizes that Sinet is back online and they can now communicate with each other. It seems the rebels have been pushed back. Yuito receives a call from his brother telling him to come to the HQ. Kaito says the nation needs a hero, and Yuito is the best person for that. This is exactly what the future Yuito was trying to prevent. He wanted Kasan to kill Yuito so he wouldn't accept the offer to become the hero. Yuito and his team make it to the HQ to discuss with Kaito. Kaito informs them that half of the OSF has defected to Seiran. He has made a decision to form a new Himuka platoon. Yuito will be the head of the new platoon, he says. This shocks Yuito, but there is no way he can object. They have the belief that Kasan and the Kyoka platoon assassinated the chairman. After the discussion with his brother, Yuito's platoon notices that he is feeling weird. They can't pinpoint what is wrong with him, so they suggest that he visits a doctor to know what is wrong. On the other hand, Karen has organized a new Siren OSF platoon. He informs everyone that Kasan will be heading the new platoon. Kasane and her platoon agreed to join Karen because he told them that New Himuka was doing research that was not appropriate. They have developed a way to turn humans into another. Karen has informed Kasane that Naomi is currently in Siran, and they have a way to help her. This is the main reason that Kasan has agreed to join Seiran. Kyoka's platoon also agreed to join Seiran. We then get to find out that the higher-ups in Seiran believe that Kasan killed the chairman. This is the reason they have decided to make her their hero. The gravity portal is still growing, and it is said to be turning to a giant gate. Kasan remembers everything that the future Yuito told her. The gate will grow big enough one day to consume the world. Karen asks Kasan to tell her everything she sees in the future. Kasan is surprised that Karen knows that she went to the future. She tells him what his future self said to her, and that is not much. Kasan asks to know where Seiran is keeping Naomi, but he refuses. Karen says she doesn't have the jurisdiction to visit their research facilities. Kasan is about to make a fuss about it when Arashi arrives and Karen leaves. After he leaves, Arashi tells her not to make a fuss. She should play their games, and they will find a way to look for Naomi on their own. Kasan is happy and relieved that Arashi is willing to help her. In the next scene, Yuito visits the doctor. The doctor checks him out and says he has nothing to worry about. He is just suffering from stress that is causing temporary memory confusion. A little rest and medication will help him. Yuito's platoon comes to check on him and ask how he is doing. Yuito learns from the TV that he has been picked as the nation's hero. After this, Hanabi suggests that they take a tour of the hospital. Hanabi sees a woman who is Dud looking for directions. Duds are those people that don't have psionic powers. Everything is built around the Sinet, so the Duds usually have problems with navigation. Hanabi takes the Dud to what she is asking for. While coming back, she sees two doctors taking Nagi out of the hospital's neurology center. She gets back to the platoon to inform them of what she saw. Tsugumi uses her powers to get a fix on Nagi. Nagi is taken into a van and transported away from the hospital. They are going in the direction of Lakusho City. The city was destroyed by the others years ago, but there was a former OSF hospital there. The team suspects that they are heading to that hospital and they decide to follow them. They soon arrive at the hospital. They see the van, but there is no sign of anyone, and this includes Nagi. They have no choice but to venture into the hospital and search around. As they enter the hospital, the scientists inside receive a warning that there are intruders. No one is supposed to be here, they say. Yuito and his team make it to a hall, and they are attacked by a bunch of others. They manage to eliminate all of the threats. Meanwhile, Kasan and her platoon are close to the portal. The gate's growth suddenly goes up by 5%. Kasan remembers what the future Yuito told her. Kasane and Yuito's power is responsible for the opening of the gate. This might be the reason it suddenly grew when Kasan was around it. Back in the hall, Yuito and his team defeat the others and they come face to face with Nagi. Nagi looks more like himself now. He's not like the psychopathic Nagi from before. It seems he has an idea of what he did, but he's under intense guilt. Yuito asks him to come with them, but he refuses. He says the doctors messed with his brain and he can suddenly snap again. Just then, a bunch of others appear and surround the team. Nagi tells them to leave and he will hold off the others. Yuito is not ready to leave his friend, but Nagi insists. He says the doctors might capture them and turn them into others. Yuito is still not ready to leave his friend. Luca takes matters into his own hands and gets every one of them except Nagi out of there. Nagi is left to take on the others by himself. They get outside the hospital and Yuito scolds Luca for getting them out. Luca says Yuito is not thinking straight. They need to leave immediately because they just learned a state secret. Suddenly, a horde of others emerges and surrounds the team again. Meanwhile, Nagi has successfully taken out all of the others by himself. He lies down on the floor exhausted. The doctors stand above him and reveal their contentment that the experiment they are carrying out on him is working. They take him and bind him to the chair again to continue their experiment. Yuito and his team manage to eliminate the others and escape from the scene. They make it to their safe house. Upon getting there, General Fubuki contacts them to inform them that the government is aware of what happened. The government is now planning to eliminate them. He reveals that the government abducted Nagi and decided to brainwash him because he witnessed Naomi's transformation. He was able to protect the others from suffering the same fate because he swore to monitor them. Nagi has already been taken before he could do anything about it. Fubuki says the government uses the hospital as a research facility. They have developed a substance that turns any life form into an other when exposed to it. He is part of the system because the government has him on a leash. Fubuki tells the team to stay put until he gives them further instructions. He hangs up the call and tells the team to ask Luca any other question that they want answers to. Luca reveals that everything started when Fubuki got engaged to Alice Ichigo. Alice was the daughter of the OSF hospital's former director. An incident happened that turned her into another, but it was reported that she died in action. Fubuki and Karen started looking into it, and they were able to discover everything that the government had been up to. Yuito wonders if his father and brother knew about everything. Luca says they are in the center of it all. Later on, we see Fubuki paying a visit to Kaito. Up next, Kasan and her team make it to the Seiran research facility. They manage to break into the facility, but they are surprised at what they see. It looks more like a factory than a research facility. They open one of the cases inside the factory and they see it stacked with ampules, the same ones from the day that Naomi morphed. The Randall family owns the Randall Industries, and this might have something to do with them, the team thinks. Suddenly, they are attacked by a bunch of others, but they manage to escape from the scene into another section of the factory. As they walk through the hallway, Kasan starts to hear Naomi's voice via the brain talk. They manage to locate the room where she is. They open the door to see Naomi, who is now a giant other. It is an emotional scene as the duo communicates tearfully. Naomi tells the team that the people at the factory have been treating her well. She wants Kasan to leave and forget about her. She says the drugs inside the ampule are responsible for her being calm and able to communicate. The drug is wearing off, and the team needs to leave immediately. Kasane doesn't want to leave her sister, and Naomi suddenly becomes aggressive when the drug wears off. She attacks Kasane, but Karen gets there just in time to administer the drug to make her calm again. Karen gets the team out of there. He tells the team that they are trying to develop a way to return Naomi back to her human form. To do this, Kasan's power will be needed. He tells them to stay put till then. They demand to know what the drug is made of, and he tells them, but we don't get to know what it is yet. On the other hand, Fubuki comes to see the team. He tells them that he has managed to convince Kaito. However, the team needs to be careful not to make waves again. Fubuki leaves, and a hospital representative comes to give Yuito his meds from the hospital. He opens it, and it contains the same ampules from the Seiran facility. The drugs come with the instructions that Yuito should take them when he feels that his condition is getting worse. Yuito and his team move out to check out a location where they are reported deserters. Meanwhile, Fubuki and the team have made plans to join hands to right the nation's wrong. Karen has been working from outside the government while Fubuki has been working from the inside. Fubuki tells the team to continue with their duties while they find a way to infiltrate the government more. Fubuki has also requested a pass into Arabahaki. He tells Kaito that he wants to check out the systems to make sure that everything is okay. Yuito and his team are still searching for the deserters when they are attacked by the others. During the battle, Yuito's head suddenly starts to feel like it wants to explode. The team had to take him away from the middle of the fight. Yuito is feeling strange and he is mumbling rubbish. At the same time, the scientists monitoring the gravity portal notice that an external force is acting on it. As the battle with the others gets more heated, Yuito has no choice but to use the ampule. His powers suddenly receive a spike, and his body feels more active. With just one sweep of attack, he is able to eliminate all of the others by himself. After the battle, they caught wind of 2 trucks registered to the Sierran Regional Force. Wataru scans the trucks and says the trucks came from Togetsu. Togetsu is somewhat an autonomous zone, and that's where Kagero is from. They decide to trail the trucks. Later that night, they search the trucks at the facility where they are parked. Luca finds a crate that contains something suspicious. They open the crates and they contain human brains. They decide to go further into the facility. They find a scientist and they knock him out to get his keycard. They enter into one of the rooms and it contains a whole load of crates that hold human brains. Yuito also finds the ampules inside the room. The drugs are manufactured by Springs Pharmaceuticals. Suddenly, the alarm goes off. It turns out that Kasan and her team are in the same facility. Kasan believes that Yuito and his team are onto them. The 2 teams come face to face with each other. Yuito asks Kasan if she knows what the facility is up to, and she says yes. We then get to know that the ampules hold substance that is made from human brains. It helps to stimulate psionic brains. It is a joint operation between Arashi's family and Seiran. Yuito feels betrayed and he says Kasane really did kill his father if she was a part of everything going on in the facility. It seems both nations have something ridiculous going on. A fight ensues between the duo. Kasane tells Yuito that she can't save her sister without the help of the drug. As the battle rages on, Arashi opens the facility door to allow Yuito and his team to escape. After their departure, Kasane goes to see Naomi. Naomi feels very sad because she just learned what the drug is made from. She tells Kasane that she doesn't want it again, and she is ready to give up on living. Kasane doesn't want to lose her sister, but Naomi cuts herself off from the Brain Talk network. Later on, Yuito and his team make it to a safe house where they are to wait for Fubuki. Fubuki soon arrives to tell the team that he already told the government of the existence of the ampule factory. This is a way to get the government to trust him more because the factory is his family's factory. Soon afterward, the scientists give Kiyato the readings from Yuito's brain and the readings from the Kunad gate. It is a complete match, and they are able to deduce that Yuito's power has something to do with the gate. Later on, Fubuki tells the team that he and Karen were the ones who convinced Seiran to build the research facility. It was in an attempt to save Alice. Alice is still in the facility. He then tells them that he has plans to collect Nagi's memory data and transmit it to the whole nation via Arahabaki. Yuito and his team are to infiltrate the hospital again to try and get Nagi's memory data. Back in Seiran, Karen calls Kasane and her team. He scolds them for allowing Yuito and his team to escape. He then tells Kasane that Naomi has refused to take the drugs and she isn't changing her mind. He informs Kasane that he has information that will interest her. Up next, Yuito and his platoon make it to the hospital. Meanwhile, Yuito's brother is trying to reach him. Kaido starts having suspicions and he remembers Fubuki coming to ask for a pass card into Arahabaki. Yuito and his platoon continue their search into the hospital. They are looking for a section that might serve as a storage center. Yuito remembers how Nagi sacrificed himself for them the last time that they came to the hospital. He is still thinking about when Nagi appears in the distance. Nagi seems to have snapped again. Meanwhile, Fubuki has been summoned by Kaito. He sends guards to find him and pick him up. Back in the hospital, Nagi attacks Yuito and his team. During the battle, Yuito starts to feel dizzy again. This gives Nagi the opportunity to grab him and hold a blade to his throat. Now in Seiran, Kasane and her platoon have been informed that Yuito has a connection with the Kunad gate. Kasane tells his platoon that they need to kill Yuito if they don't want the world to come to an end. However, Kasane remains doubtful. She wishes that there is another way to go about it. Up next, Yuito wakes up in a lab. He is tied to a chair and the scientist inside the room regards him as a test subject. The doctor says he and Yuito have met before. This was around 11 years ago. Yuito has no memory of this and the doctor adds it to his data. The doctor also mentions that Yuito was a dud before. However, some tests were carried out on him for him to be able to acquire his psionic abilities. Yuito also has no memory of this. Yuito is not attentive to everything the doctor is saying because he is worried about his friends. Just then, Fubuki and Yuito's friends enter the room. Fubuki has broken Yuito's team free from their bondage. He tells them that he has the program to transmit the feeds to the nation. They need to go to Arahabaki. The others start to gather and at the same time, Wataru informs them that the OSF already knows that Yuito and his friends are there. Fubuki gives Yuito the passcode that they need to access Arahabaki. Fubuki stays back and volunteers to take on the others. Yuito and his team make it outside the facility to find Karen there. He has taken care of the guards outside. He tells Yuito that he is now a wanted person in the nation. He offers Yuito the chance to join Seiran, but he refuses. Yuito says the two nations have gone mad. The only option he has is to go to Togetsu. Togetsu is an independent city, so he can't be reached if he is there. Karen gives Yuito an ampule because he needs it to survive. Karen leaves them to assist Fubuki. On the other hand, Kasane and her team are also considering the option of going to Togetsu. Yuito and his platoon make it to their safe house while the manhunt for Yuito is going on in the city. Wataru has come to join them too. Yuito suggests that they go to Togetsu. However, he is worried that they haven't heard from Fubuki since they left the old OSF hospital, scared that Fubuki has been captured. Yuito and his team weigh their options and they all agree to go to Togetsu. At the same time, Kasane and her platoon have decided to visit Yuito. Kasane believes that there are pieces of information in Togetsu that can help Naomi. She's ready to take any chance to save her sister. Haruka will stay back to monitor the facility and give the team other necessary updates. Before leaving, Kasane says goodbye to her sister. She promises to find a way to save her. In the next scene, we see Fubuki on a hospital bed. Karen is beside him. Karen saved him before he was overwhelmed in the hospital. The duo talks about Alice and Fubuki says he misses her. She was not built for the Force, but she joined anyway. It seems the trio have been coming from way back. Karen leaves the room before Fubuki can talk about Alice more. Soon afterward, we see Kasane and her team on their way to Togetsu. They get to a point where they have no choice but to ditch the truck and continue on foot. The environment is filled with snow, and it appears that the weather is harsh also. They continue walking, and after some time, Kagero tells the team not to give up because they are closer to Togetsu now. Suddenly the weather gets worse. They look ahead to see an other made of ice standing in front of them. It attacks them, but Arashi is able to handle the enemy all by herself. This comes as a shock to them because there have been no reports of an other made of ice. The blizzard that has been disturbing also disappears. This is a sign that the other was responsible for the terrible weather. Moments later, they make it to Togetsu. Kagero turns back and runs away. He's not ready for a reunion with his countrymen. Envoys come outside to welcome Kasane. Kasane is surprised that they know her by name. They also regard her as their treasure, and this confuses Kasane the more. She has never had any affiliation with the Togetsu faith or religion, so she doesn't know what they mean when they refer to as their treasure. The envoys are covered in white attires, so they can't see their faces or what they look like. The envoys inform Kasane that she is originally from Togetsu. New Himuka kidnapped her because of her immense psionic powers. They offer to tell Kasane everything she wants to know. However, they want her to be alone. Kasane refuses and says her platoon needs to hear anything and everything that they want to say. The Togetsu people tell Kasane that they have no choice but to resort to force. Suddenly, Kasane and her friends realize that they are surrounded. They capture Kasane and her team. During the struggle, one of the envoys' faces opens and the team is shocked to see Kyoka under the mask. She apologizes for what is happening and she sedates Kasane. Kyoka says they now have the brain that governs the red strings. She adds that the other one is on his way. Later on, Yuito and his team make it to Togetsu, and they are welcomed by envoys from the city. They reveal their excitement to have Yuito in their midst. As Yuito and his team make their way into the city, Yuito is surprised that they are being treated well. It seems like they know them before. Tsugumi is monitoring everything happening with her powers. Wataru is also at the safe house and he is monitoring them. Yuito and his team are taken to a room where they are left alone. A book is on the table, and when Yuito tries to open it, a hologram version of Kyoka displays right in front of them. She is introduced as Kyoka Eden. She's a design human that was created by Togetsu. They are designed to have the appearance and powers that their creators want. Kyoka is designed after the psionics researcher Dr. Hitoyo Pope. Hitoyo passed away around 2,000 years ago, and this is the same time that New Himuka was founded. The team decided to look into New Himuka because it might contain information that they need. Kyoka's hologram to tell them about New Himuka. It was founded 2,020 years ago by the people of the Ark. The people of the Ark are a group of immigrants who came down from the moon. The computer tells them that the Earth became unlivable 3,000 years ago. People were sent to the moon to live there. 1,000 years later, some immigrants were sent to Earth to see if it was now livable. The people that came down to Earth are the people of the Ark. This tells the team that there is the possibility that there might still be people on the moon. Right now, there is no way to contact the moon because of the extinction belt. The belt wasn't there when the emigrants descended to Earth in the past. This means that the belt appeared after the emigrants got to Earth. The others did not appear at the same time, but later after the extinction belt appeared. The platoon wants to know more, but the computer informs them that they don't have access to the Babe system, which holds the info that they want. It dawns on them that their founding father is actually from the moon. After this, they ask the AI what it knows about the Kunad Gate. The AI explains that the gate is a quasi-black hole that appeared in the sky. The hole will continue growing until it engulfs the Earth. The AI then reveals that Yutio's psionic power is connected to the hole. This comes as a shock to Yutio and the platoon. After leaving the room, Yuito tells his friends that he is interested in Babe. They need access to it if they are to know more about the others. While they are talking about this, a city official shows up and offers to take them to Babe. Babe is the city's computer and it controls everything in the city. Meanwhile, Kagero has managed to sneak into the city. He finds out that Yuito and his team are in the city. In the next scene, Kasane is sleeping when she remembers how everything came to be. She was living in Togetsu when she was still a kid. Her mother was taken away from her because of the experiments that were being carried out on her. She wakes up to find herself in a locked room. Moments later, they brought clothes for Kasane. Suddenly, the officials are knocked out. Kagero reveals himself after he has taken care of the threat. He tells Kasane that they need to leave because Togetsu is much worse than they thought. He also informs Kasane that Yuito and his platoon are in the city. This comes as a piece of bad news for Kasane. She is now aware that Togetsu is after her red rings. There is the possibility that Yuito has the same powers too. They need to find their friends and get them out of where they are being held. They manage to contact Arashi and Shidin, but they can't get a hold of the others yet. On the other hand, Yuito and his team have made it to where Babe is being held. The city official leaves the platoon inside the room so that they can ask any question that they want. They realize that they can't contact Wataru, but they are now freaking out. They see another book on the table. Upon touching the book, nothing happened unlike before. Suddenly, Yuito can't move his body. Kasane gets to the entrance of the room where Babe is being housed. She's able to use brain talk to find out that Yuito is inside the room. She's also able to deduce that something is wrong. Yuito and his team can't move their bodies. Kasane tells Yuito to get his hands off the computer. It takes Yuito everything to do this. He destroys the computer to set the rest of his platoon free. Yuito and his platoon are surprised to find out that Kasane is in Togetsu. She tells them that Togetsu is after her and Yuito. She then asks them for help to find Arashi and the rest of her platoon. They make their way deeper into the facility, and they are able to find Arashi and the rest. They face some resistance, but they are able to scale through. While fighting the enemies, Yuito finds out that one of them looks like Kasane. She is probably one of the design children. Kasane and her team manage to get out of the facility. They run into Kyoka, and she tells them that they cannot allow them to escape. Kyoka engages the team, and the team struggles against her. She beats them up, but she suddenly snaps back to her actual self. She laments about the fact that she is acting like Pope. One of the Togetsu people appears from behind and explains that Pope is the one who designed Kyoka. This is the reason Kyoka is acting according to her will. Everything she has been doing is to lead Kasane to Togetsu. Kasane then starts talking to Kyoka. She is trying to convince her that she can make her own choices and not follow what she has been programmed for. Kasane's words get to Kyoka and she drops her weapons. She apologizes for the things she has done to hurt the team. Kyoka tells the team that she still wants to be with them and protect Kasane of her own free will. The team accepts her and this makes her happy. The team promises to deal with her other personality if it surfaces again. While they are in the middle of this, they receive the information that Yuito's platoon also made it out. Kasane wants to rendezvous with them immediately. Moments later, the two platoons meet each other. Kasane tells everyone that she is not trying to kill Yuito again. She wants to tell him everything to avoid any sort of assumption. On the other hand, Yuito also believes that Kasane wasn't the one who killed his father. Kagero then leads the teams to his place of hideout. This is the perfect place for them to discuss. Yuito then asks Kasane to tell him why she tried to kill him. Kasane then explains how she traveled to the future and met with future Yuito. He was the one who begged her to kill Yuito. Yuito's power is affecting the gate, and it needs to be closed before it ends the world. This saddens Yuito because he sees himself as a loser, but his team shrugs the idea off his mind. Yuito's platoon then reveals that they saw someone who looked like Kasane in Togetsu. She is one of the design children, and there is the possibility that Kasane is a design child too. Kasane doesn't deny this, and she reveals that she was actually created, but her mother was taken away. After this, Yuito tells Kasane's platoon where humankind came from. They ask Kyoka to shed more light on the topic, since she still has some memories of Pope. Before she can start to explain, she faces Kagero and asks who he is. Kagero then tells everyone that he was one of the immigrants who landed on Earth around 2,000 years ago. In fact, the building they are standing in is not a hideout, but a spaceship. Elsewhere, we see Kaito making the determination to carry out his family's wishes by using Yuito as a tool. In another place, Karen is also talking about how he can't fail again. He needs to be successful this time around, he says. Kagero says he arrived on the ship from the moon 2,000 years ago. He even knows the founding father, Yakumo, who is Yuito's ancestor. After arriving, he was put to sleep. While they are still discussing this, the OSF arrives and attacks them. However, they manage to escape, and a pursuit team is sent after them. The team is split into groups during the struggle. Kasane and Yuito are together. Yuito is trying to avoid a fight with the OSF because he doesn't see them as the true enemy. As Kasane and Yuito travel through the mountains, Yuito uses brain talk to communicate with Kagero. He begins to question him about everything that he knows. Kagero reveals that Yakumo was a cheerful leader who brought everyone together. The land started prospering, and in no time, more immigrants kept landing. However, the program was scrapped sooner than it should have been. This is because something happened on the moon, they say. Kasane wants to know more about what Kagero is saying. Kagero decides to narrate the whole story for them. After they landed on Earth, they remained in contact with the moon. Shortly afterward, a comet passed by the moon that rained down some unusual substance. The people on the moon started turning into monsters, the others. All life that came in substance with the substance was transformed into others. The government on the moon names the substance particles. They decide to divert the particles to Earth to keep the moon safe. This is what created the extinction belt. Basically, those on the moon decided to sacrifice those on Earth to remain safe. After this, Kahero has no idea what happened to those on the moon. He doesn't know if they survived or not. Shortly afterward, every one of them regroups. They start walking down through a tunnel to get to the foot of the mountain. Their armored vehicle is there, and they are walking towards it. Suddenly, a giant other emerges from underground. They attack it, but nothing appears to be working. The group had no choice but to retreat immediately. The other has made the place its home, and it will be difficult to defeat it. They make a plan to try and get around the other. While they are doing this, Kagero informs Yuito and Kasane that he and some others from the moon, and the ones who founded Togetsu. They put themselves in deep sleep, and they take turns waking to assess the situation. Togetsu's aim is to get hold of the red strings and turn back to make sure that none of it happened. It dawns on them that Seiran and Su have no time to be squabbling amongst themselves. It seems Togetsu is the main enemy now. They divide themselves and a group is tasked with baiting the other. They manage to lure the other into a trap that they had set for it. It enters the trap and they attack it with everything they have. They are able to push the enemy into the deep underground for it to fall to its death. Kagero is happy that the other is finally defeated after so many years. They finally make it to the foot of the mountain. Kagero reveals that he has a family on the moon, and this is the reason he doesn't want Togetsu's plan to work out. The group makes a plan among themselves to find a way to convince the leaders of Su and Seiran. They are currently outlaws, but they have no choice. The group splits up again, and before they separate, Kasane apologizes to Yuito for trying to kill him. They wish each other the best of luck, and they go on their separate ways to try and get the two nations to work together. Soon afterward, Yuito and his team make it to South. They notice that everywhere is awfully quiet. This can only mean one thing. The military is already prepared for them. They look ahead to see Nagi walking toward them. He looks very dangerous, and he is ready to destroy them without mercy. Nagi attacks them ferociously, and they don't seem to be able to stand him. Yuito even tries to talk to Nagi, but he is not there for any discussion. He just wants to kill Yuito. As the battle rages on, Yuito thinks of a way to get to Nagi. Yuito runs to the building where he and Nagi have always trained. Nagi enters the room and it looks like he recognizes the room. Yuito reminds him of everything he has planned out. Nagi holds his head in pain, but he still snaps back to his evil self. His programming to kill Yuito is so strong that he doesn't care about their friendship. Nagi starts feeling intense pain from the overuse of his brain. He still keeps going even with the fact that he can actually die from it. He finally reaches his limit and he falls to the ground. He finds it hard to move his blood and red liquid starts dripping from his head. He apologizes to Yuito for trying to kill him. He says a voice is in his head that is pushing him to kill Yuito. He is trying to fight it, but it is hard. Nagi is also guilt-stricken because of Sato's death. He wishes he could find Sato and apologize to him. Nagi has always dreamed of dying while fighting the others, but it seems that it will not be possible now. Nagi talks about everything he regrets doing, and he asks Yuito for forgiveness. He takes his final breath after he tells Yuito that he wishes that he could have done things differently. Yuito is devastated by his friend's death, and he promises to avenge him. After this, Yuito and his team make their way to Kaido's office. Yuito asks his brother if he is responsible for what happened to Nagi, and he says yes. He reveals that they have always known about his unique power, and they want it. This is to fulfill Yakumo's dearest wishes. Yakumo's wish is to destroy the extinction belt and attack the people on the moon. He wants revenge for what they did to the people on Earth. They plan to use Yuito's power to move the extinction belt and open the way to the moon. Kaito says they plan to connect the civilians' brains to Yuito's brain through the SAS. They will then use this to move the belt. Yuito gets angry and berates his brother for trying to carry out the wishes of a dead man. Kaito then reveals that Yakumo is still alive and he is currently sleeping in Su's deep underground. He is currently in cold sleep just like Kagero was. Kaito says it is time for Yuito to fulfill his duty as one of the family members, but Yuito doesn't care about all of that. Yuito is not ready to be their prisoner either. Kaito is ready to force his brother against his own wishes. Yuito and his team walk out of Kato's office. They get outside the office to find a bunch of guards waiting for them. They are ready to fight, but Luca teleports all of them out of there. Later that night, Yuito was informed by Wataru that he was able to get the audio and video recordings of the office. This is a step forward and they can actually broadcast this for the people to see. Their plan to use Arahabaki has not changed. They still have the one-time password and it might come in handy now. Yuito is ready to show everyone what his brother and his father have been up to. On the other hand, Kasane is informed that there is a problem. The human-derived others at the superhuman research facility are currently being moved. Hataru says she looked at the data and it seems that Fubuki is in charge. Kasane starts to remember the memories she has had with her sister. However, Kasane is calm that Fubuki must have his reasons for moving the others. Back in Su, Yuito and his team make it to Arahabaki. As they make it deeper into the facility, it is evident that Luca is exhausted. This is because he has been using his powers so much in recent times. He tells the team not to worry about him because he is just doing what is necessary. Tsugumi scans the area to find an access point for the team. In the next scene, Kasane and her team find Naomi and the rest of the others where they have transported them. The doctors quickly voice out that they are just following orders from the higher-ups. They have brought out the others for final adjustment. They plan to use them as weapons in battle. Naomi then tells Kasane that the men are lying. They are acting under Kaito's orders and not that of Fubuki. Kasane tells them that she won't stay back and watch them use her sister as a weapon. Meanwhile, Kaito has also carried out a hit order on Fubuki. Fuki is on the hospital bed when the assassins arrive to attack him, but he is able to move from the bed before any of their attacks can hit him. Kasane and her team engage the guards there. Suddenly, her sister is injected with something that makes her aggressive immediately. She attacks Kasane without second thoughts. As the battle rages on, Togetsu people also arrive to third-party them. Naomi is able to snap back to her usual self and she helps out Kasane. The other Kasane from Togetsu is attacking Kasane when Naomi jumps in to save her sister. She finally understands why she turned to an other. It was to protect her sister, she says. All the others also agree to help Naomi. Naomi offers to clear a path for Kasane to escape. Naomi tells Arashi to look after Kasane, and Arashi accepts. Kasane's team drags her out of there as Naomi and the others battle the designed Kasane. Meanwhile, Fubuki has taken care of his attackers. Karen has joined him and they have found out that Alice is part of the others that was moved. After Naomi and the others battle the fake Kasane, Kasane returns to check on her sister. The duo has a heart-to-heart conversation before Naomi finally dies. One of the others is Alice. Karen gets there in time to see her die and turn into the usual petal thing. Karen is sad that he has failed again. He grabs Kasane and absorbs her psionic powers. He leaves the scene and they all know that his next move will be to reset everything again. He wants to keep trying till he saves Alice. On the other hand, Yuito and his team have made it to the desk terminal at Arahabaki. Yuito inserts the disc into the computer. They transmit the video data and they are about to leave when Karen arrives. He grabs Yuito on the head just like he did to Kasane. Luca manages to get Yuito away from Karen's grasp. They demand to know why he is trying to copy Yuito's power, but he refuses. He opts to fight the group instead. Kasane and her team are also preparing to find Yuito and his platoon because they know Karen will be coming for Yuito. Meanwhile, the citizens have seen everything that Kaito talked about and rumblings have started to grow among the people. The council has also summoned Kaito to come and defend himself. The fight between Karen and Yuito's team is one-sided because Karen is too powerful for them. Karen then hacks into Arahabaki and releases some cables which he uses to grab Yuito. He starts to siphon his power with the rope, and this is also evident on the Kunad Gate. Kasane and her platoon get to the area and can feel the massive shake in the earth. Kasane immediately knows that Yuito is in trouble. After getting what he wants, the cable detaches from Yuito's body and Karen disappears. Yuito falls to the ground, unable to move his body. He just lays down there with his eyes open but nothing to do. Meanwhile, something is invading Yuito's brain and this is the reason he can't respond to stimulus. He is currently suffering from brain damage. Kasane and her team get there to find Yuito's platoon confused about what to do. Kasane cannot connect to him via brain talk, and she deduces that Yuito's memory is currently fading. Once his memories are gone, Yuito too is gone. Kasane then suggests that they copy their memories to Yuito. They will digitize it and reload his connection with their memories. They need to anchor his existence even though it is the only way and it is risky. Hanabi starts talking to Yuito, while the rest of the team gets on with the process. Hanabi's talk will act as external stimuli to slow down memory loss. While they are writing the program, they realize that they need Yuito's brain data. Kagero comes in clutch when he tells them that he has Yuito's brain data. When asked how he got it, he tells them that he got it from Togetsu. Togetsu stole all of their brain data when they were there. Kagero copied it and deleted it afterward. He never thought it would come in handy. After the program has been completed, all that is left is to run it and see how it goes. Inside Yuito's brain, he starts to lose consciousness of himself. He starts to wriggle his body, but Tsugumi jolts him to keep him under. SAS cables are then connected to his body to start the program. The team starts calling out his name one by one to try and get him to remember who he is. Inside his brain, Yuito is able to figure out that his friends are calling out to him. He also sees his late mother before finally coming to. Kasane and the rest think the program didn't work until Yuito voices out and says something to them. Meanwhile, the government has imposed a curfew to try and curb any sort of violence that might want to erupt among the citizens. Yuito and his team gather, and they say it is time to change New Himuka for the better. Just then, Fubuki arrives, and he reveals his joy to have found the group. He has something to tell them, but they need to get to a safe place first. He hasn't finished this sentence when he falls to the ground and faints. The group gets Fubuki to a safe place, and he finally regains consciousness. He commends the group for how far they have tried. He tells them that Karen has probably used the red strings to travel in time again. He is trying to save Alice, he says. Karen is willing to do anything to save Alice. Fubuki then reveals that he, Alice, and Karen were inseparable friends. They have been together since their childhood. Let's go back in time to see the story of the trio. Fubuki and Alice have always been friends. Alice is the first to show interest in joining the OSF. Fubuki believes that the OSF will not test her, but she insists on going. They get to the entrance of the hospital and see Karen lying on the floor. They try talking to him, but he shuns them off. Fubuki and Alice enter the building to get tested, but they are rejected. As they leave the building, they run into Karen, who has been waiting for them. He gives Alice flowers to apologize for the way he behaved. Alice accepts the flowers, and the trio soon become friends. The following day, the trio are seen together, and they finally introduce themselves. After this, Fubuki and Alice start to visit the hospital more often, so that they can see Karen. During the story, Luca reveals that he and his brother were born without powers, and this is why they are at the hospital. Luca and his brother were subjected to various experiments, and they were treated like lab rats. They were trying to give them psionic powers. What kept Luca and Karen going during these hard times was Alice and Fubuki's friendship. Karen and Luca realize that they can also visit the outside world if they manage to develop powers too. On the other hand, Alice's psionic power is Genesis, which allows her to create things. However, her powers are still weak. Fubuki has ice powers. Karen and Luca are determined to work harder to be able to leave the hospital. Karen learns during one of their conversations that Fubuki and Alice are to be married. Their families have arranged the marriage since they were small. Soon afterward, Karen is able to develop the ability to steal other people's powers. He was scouted by the OSF not long after that. Fubuki was also scouted, and the duo became best buddies. Later on, Alice also makes it to the OSF, and she is happy to have caught up with Fubuki and Karen. The trio fought in the same platoon, and Alice continues to grow stronger than she was before. Karen always cared for Alice at every single point. Shortly afterward, a strange phenomenon occurred. The extinction belt descended to a very low elevation in certain areas. During one of their fights with the others, Alice gets caught up in the particle while she is trying to push Karen out of the way. She is transformed into another because of this. After this, she was confined to the OSF hospital and treated like a guinea pig. Later on, Fubuki and Karen broke Alice out of the hospital, and Fubuki's family helped. Spring Pharmaceuticals has connections with Siran, and this is how Alice was rescued. However, it turns out to be a worse fate for Alice because she is put in confinement worse than before. Fubuki begged Karen to end it, but he refused. He is determined to save Alice by all means. This is the reason he has traveled through time to alter what happened to Alice. The group then decides to invade Togetsu and try to use the Babe computer to try and disrupt the Red String's functionality. Fubuki is to try and stop the other two nations from attacking Togetsu. Before they leave, Kagero calls Yuito to private because he has something to tell him. However, he changes his mind and decides to tell everyone. Kagero knows who killed Joe, Yuito's father. Kagero shocks everyone when he says he is the one who killed Yuito's father. He reminds the group that he is spying for Togetsu, and that the chairman is not on good terms with Togetsu. Kagero has plans to stop Togetsu, but he needs to kill the chairman to make them believe that he is still on their side. It was nothing personal, but just something that needed to be done to avoid suspicion from Togetsu. Kagero asks for Yuito's forgiveness, but Yuito is angry, and he attacks Kagero. A fight ensues between the duo, but Gemma tells the team not to stop them. He says they won't move past their grievances if they don't get it out of their system. Yuito continues to attack Kagero ferociously, and Kagero can sense that Yuito has gotten stronger. Kagero begs Yuito not to kill him because his 2,000-year-old effort will go to waste. Yuito pointed the sword to his neck and stopped. Yuito reveals that he only attacked Kagero that way to get him to speak his mind. He knows that he has something else that he is hiding, and he wants him to spill it. Kagero then narrates what happened that night. He confronted Joe, and the duo was able to discuss at length. Kagero realized Joe was not a bad person as he had thought before. Joe has plans to right the wrongs of the nation. He doesn't want Yuito to grow up in such a corrupt nation. During their conversation, they are attacked by 3 others, and Joe gets fatally wounded in the process. Kagero sees Kasan coming, and he quickly enters invisibility mode. Before dying, Joe wanted to tell Kasane that there was a spy in the OSF, but he changed his mind. After narrating how everything came to be, Kagero reveals that he holds himself responsible for Joe's death because he was the one who confronted him before the others attacked. He says he cannot allow history to be changed because his family on the moon will cease to exist. Yuito understands Kagero's feelings because he knows the pain of getting erased from history. Kagero and Yuito decide to work together to stop Togetsu. As the group travels to Togetsu, they feel the earth shake, and they deduce that it is coming from the Kunda Gate. It appears to be the same effect from the day that the gate opened. They find out that the gate just experienced a data anomaly, and the shake was felt through the whole of New Himuka. The group concludes that they will collect all the data that Togetsu has on the gate before shutting down Babe. Yuito reveals that he has not felt any headache since the team saved him at Arahabaki. Kagero says he noticed the difference because Yuito appeared to be more powerful when he was fighting him. However, Kagero adds that it might have happened because Yuito was fighting with his emotions. Another thing that might be happening is that Yuito might be losing his powers. It is said that power gets enhanced temporarily before disappearing permanently. This doesn't come as a surprise to Yuito because he was a dud before he got his powers. Kagero tells the team that he will go ahead to pave the way for their arrival in Togetsu. Kagero sneaks up on the guards and knocks them out. He opens the door so that the team can easily enter. They are faced with resistance as they enter the city. Luca then offers to teleport them directly to where Babe is. He already scanned the building's structure the last time they were there. Upon getting to where Babe is, they feel the massive shake again, and this time, it is even worse. They are about to proceed when they hear a female voice asking them to stop and listen to her. The unknown female appears, and it turns out to be Yuito's mother. Kasan tells Yuito not to fall for it because it is just a hologram created by Babe. However, the vision starts to talk about Yuito's childhood. Turns out that Yuito's mother's name is Wakana. She was also a design child, but she ran away from Togetsu, and Joe took her under his wings. Everything the vision was saying was going so well, until she slipped and said something that she wasn't supposed to say. The team is able to figure out that the person speaking to them is Babe herself. She then reveals that Wakana turned into an other. Her brain was integrated into her so that she could have a human brain. Basically, Togetsu did this to Yuito's mother. Yuito determines that he will shut Babe down to prevent them from ever using his mum again. Suddenly, the floor under them starts to collapse, and the team makes a run for it. They make it to the next opening, and they find themselves on a long bridge. The bridge collapses as they run on it, but they have no choice but to continue running. The group manages to get off the bridge and make it to Babe's main unit. Arashi is about to get to work when she realizes that all of the data has been erased. It seems the computer is now an empty pile of junk. Just then, Wataru contacts them to tell the team that Babe has truly stopped functioning. However, the shakes from the Kunad Gate are getting more and more frequent. They need information about the Kunad Gate, but all of the data is now gone. There's only one place where they can get the information. Wakana is their best bet because she practically raised Kasane in Togetsu too. Kasane is the wielder of the red string, so she definitely has information about it. They need to ask her by themselves. To do this, they will need to travel back in time. Yuito tells them a particular and specific date on which they can meet his mother. He tells them the exact day that she died, in the old OSF hospital in Lokusho City. This is the day that the others attacked the city en masse. However, Kasan will be the only one going back in time. They can't risk Yuito seeing his younger self. All their strength will also be used in sending Kasan back and forth. Yuito and Kasane hold each other's hands to activate the red strings. Kasan is transported to the past, and Yuito passes out right after this. Kasan arrives in the past where Yuito and his mother are playing a game of hide-and-seek. They are staying at the hospital because Yuito is receiving treatments because he is a dud. Kasane finds Wakana when Yuito is hiding behind some flowers. Wakana recognizes Kasane immediately when she sees her. She says she has been expecting her. It turns out that Babe has found a way to connect all the memories of the design children. Wakana has the idea that Kasane will come. Kasane asks if they really need to kill Yuito to stop the gate from consuming the world, and she says yes. Yuito is behind the flowers so he can clearly hear their conversations. Wakana then tells Kasane that she needs to take her back to the time she is coming from. However, she needs to give Yuito the newly designed ear cuff she made for him. The ear cuff is a device that will prevent him from suffering memory loss. She and Kasan can then travel after that. Yuito hears all of this, and he is in great shock. Suddenly, the alarm goes off to signal the arrival of the others. Yuito gets scared and runs into the hospital. Kasane and Wakana run after him. Wakana gives her the ear cuff to give to Yuito when she finds him. Yuito is attacked, but Kasan saves him. This is the same scene that Yuito remembers from his childhood where he was saved by an unknown person. Turns out that Kasan was truly the one who saved him. Kasan then wears the device on Yuito's ear. She hands Yuito over to the guards to protect him. Kasane rendezvous with Wakana, and together they travel to the present time. Yuito regains consciousness to see that his mother and Kasane are back. Kasane, Wakana, and Yuito return home. Yuito wakes up the next morning to find the ladies in the kitchen. They're already fond of each other. It just seems that the two have missed each other greatly. Yuito joins the duo in the kitchen, and Wakana tells him that Kasan has brought her up to speed concerning Babe. Kasan leaves the kitchen to do the laundry. Mother and son are able to have a heart-to-heart conversation about their family. Yuito's team is outside the kitchen and they hear some of the conversation. The group enters to greet Wakana when they realize that the duo are done with their talk. Shortly afterward, the group sits down to have breakfast. Wakana reveals that they must destroy the dimensional entanglements inside the Kunad Gate. Once they are able to destroy this, the gate will close. To do this, Yuito and Kunad must enter the gate together. There is a conceptual space that exists only for red string users. It is called the Chronos Terminal. Judging by the name, it must be like a station or juncture for time travel. They need to find the terminal to untangle the entanglement. Before they leave for the gate, Wakana apologizes for abandoning Kasane, but Kasane doesn't take offense. She understands that Wakana had to run because Togitsu was after her. Kasane remembers her time in Such, then her time in Togetsu. Shortly afterward, Yuito and Kasane hold each other's hands and travel to the gate. Upon arriving, they see the entanglements. They need to untangle each point in time. They get to work immediately and use their powers together to make things easier. They start with the day at the OSF hospital. As they do this, Yuito thanks Kasane for saving him that day. He has been able to harness his power since that day. Before they know it, they have untangled one point. They move to the next one, which is Su, 50 years into the future. They travel to the point of the entanglement and they get to work immediately. They successfully untangle this point also, but Kasane appears to be exhausted already. They now have one last entanglement point to untangle and they are done. They look into the last entanglement point and they see Karen. Something weird starts to happen. The two immediately get to work to solve the entanglement. Seconds later, the entanglement dissolves and the duo concludes that they have done it. The duo passes out and wakes up back on the highway. They are surprised that the gate is not closing as it should have. Wakana hugs them and says they have tried their best. The rest of the task is now left for her. The duo is not ready to let their mother go, but Wakana tearfully leaves her children. Wakana travels back to her timeline. After she is gone, the rest of the group reveals that Wakana told them that the gate will stay open if she doesn't return to her timeline. She also left a recorded message for the duo. Wakana apologizes for leaving the way she is. She needs to go back to her timeline and allow Togetsu to harvest her brain and connect it to Babe. She tells her children that she is proud of who they have grown up to be. Wakana arrives in her timeline and she activates the program sequence that gives Togetsu the go-ahead to collect her brain. After Wakana has returned, the gate remains open and this comes as a surprise to the group. The gate should have closed by now, they lament. Yuito is exhausted, so they take him back home so he can rest. Later on, Yuito wakes up, but they are suddenly attacked. However, the group manages to escape before the OSF search team can nab them. All the 3 entanglements have been taken care of. The 3 entanglement points are 11 years ago, 50 years in the future, and Yakumo Sumeragis's time. The group is still wondering why Yakumo's time is involved. Yuito says they saw Karen kill Yakumo, but history didn't mention if Yakumo was assassinated. This is what caused the entanglement. Karen used the Arahabaki and the red strings to travel through time to do this. However, Yakumo was wearing a mask when they saw Karen kill him. One of the group explains that Yakumo stopped going out in public after he was injured. He started wearing the mask and became a totally different person. The team deduces that Karen must have assumed Yakumo's identity after he killed him. They start to wonder why Karen would do something like that. Wakana was the one who unraveled her own entanglement, so Karen will be the one to unravel his own. They need to find Karen and try to convince him. They also need to find Yakumo, and the best bet is the Sumeragi's mausoleum. Since Kaito said he is in deep sleep, it is possible that is where he is. Kaito has also been placed on house arrest after the public reveal. He was held as the scapegoat and was suspended. The team then contacts Fubuki for assistance. Later on, Kaito contacts Yuito and asks him to come and see him alone. The team is skeptical about this because Kaito was once after Yuito's power and he might still be. Nonetheless, Yuito wants to go and hear what his brother has to say. Soon afterward, Yuito goes to the meeting point. Kaito soon joins him. Yuito doesn't look concerned until Kaito brings out a gun. He tells his brother not to underestimate him because he can still easily kill him and take his brain. Meanwhile, Karen has fallen back to the city because his attempt to time travel has failed. Kaito then continues his conversation with Yuito. He has learned from Fubuki that Yuito plans to enter the family's tomb. Kaito says he might have lost his authority as chief of OSF, but he is still the head of the Sumeragi family. The duo is in the middle of this when a group of others suddenly appears and surrounds the duo. Yuito starts to fight the others, and at the same time he is suffering from a severe headache. The Kunad gate is also acting abnormally. The two brothers manage to escape from the scene, and Kaito wonders why Yuito didn't leave him. Kaito talks about fulfilling Yakumo's wishes, but Yuito tries to convince him. He says nothing is worth sacrificing thousands of people for. Kaito is no different from Togetsu if he continues with what he is doing. He tells Kaito to stop being a prisoner of someone he has not met before. Yuito's words get to Kaito, and he appears to be emotional. He thanks Yuito for saving him. Just then, the others show up again. Yuito defeats them, but another wave soon shows up again. Seeing this, Kaito gives Yuito the key to the mausoleum. He tells his brother to leave and uses himself as bait. The others are about to terminate Kaito when Fubuki and the rest of the team arrive to assist them. Fubuki reveals that he has managed to convince Seiran to agree to a ceasefire. Yuito is also no longer a rebel. Suddenly the ground starts to shake heavily, and a whole new wave of others starts to descend from the sky. Yuito begins to suffer from an intense headache once again. Yuito is put in the armored vehicle and he is being transported to the hospital. He appears to be in severe pain as they travel to the hospital. The extinction belt has descended to extremely low and the others are just pouring out like water. Due to the emergency, Kaito is restored as the chief of the OSF. He takes control of the force and starts to dish out instructions again. After Yuito makes it to the hospital, Fubuki and the rest of the group join the fight. Later on, Yuito wakes up on the hospital bed. The team tells him that the others have reduced and their spawn rate has also dwindled. The defense system is offline. The team is at the HQ trying to mobilize in case the city gets overrun again. Yuito tells the team that he will head to the mausoleum. The team is worried, but he tells them that he is okay. He needs to find Yakumo, or better still, Karen. Luca is worried that a fight will break out between his brother and Yuito. They have no choice but to listen to Yuito as long as he says he is okay to go to the mausoleum. That night, each of the team members talked amongst themselves before going to bed. Kagero is worried that he won't be able to protect Tsugumi, but she tells him not to worry about her. Arashi also goes to Fubuki's office to torment him just like sisters and brothers do. Arashi assures Fubuki that the group will give their best, and the others won't even know what hit them. Kasan lies down and sees the image of an unknown woman before going to sleep. The next morning, Kasan checks on Yuito at the hospital. He has got up early to try and practice, but he is still weak. He can't even pick up a can with his powers. Yuito tells Kasan that the gate needs to be closed to stop those who have the intention of using it for their own selfish reasons. He has still not gotten over the deaths of Nagi, Naomi, and Sato. He wants to fix everything so that the world can be a better place for everyone else. Gemma contacts the two to get ready because they are moving out in 15 minutes. The group arrives at the mausoleum, and Wataru reveals that he can't even get the data of what is inside there. Basically, they are going in blind. Guido uses the key with him to open the door, and they are shocked to find out that the building's structure looks just like the OSF headquarters. They start to panic about the situation. They wonder if someone used transport powers on them to take them back to the HQ. Suddenly, the alert comes on that the others have started to descend rapidly again. The others attack the group and they fight off the first wave that they encountered. They see someone like Karen enter walking in the distance and Luca follows him. The group splits up. Kasan and some find themselves in a room that looks just like the one that Naomi was confined to. They enter the room and they see an other that looks just like Naomi. Suddenly the team is surrounded by others and they quickly burst out of there before the others trap them like rats. The ground beneath the whole team soon shatters, and they fall into a room where they see Nagi tied to a chair. Images of Karen and Luca tied to the bed for experimental purposes also show up. The team starts to feel immense pain in their heads. It turns out that they are feeling the pain and agony that the duo was feeling. The image of Alice dying in front of Karen also flashes before their eyes. It stays on repeat, and each of the team members feels the pain and agony that Karen was feeling. Tears roll down their eyes as they fall to their knees. Moments later, they are able to snap out of the phase. They finally make it to the room where Yakumo is. The cryo machine pops out and Yakumo steps out of it. He removes his mask to reveal the face under. The face under the mask is that of Karen. It is now clear to them that Karen did assume Yakumo's identity. The team tells him that they need his help to close the gate. He needs to unravel his own entanglement. Karen is not ready to help them because he believes that it changes nothing. He says Yakumo was also a red string user, and he was drawn to his power when he was looking for ways to save Alice. He later found a way to save Alice. That is to connect himself to Arahabaki. However, it hasn't worked either. Several versions of himself have tried it over and over, and it keeps creating new entanglements. Just then, the present Karen arrives and demands an answer to all his questions. He opts to attack the other Karen and absorb all the memories and knowledge he has gathered. After he does this, Karen suffers immense pain and finds himself in a plane dimension with the other Karen. The other Karen tells the present Karen that he will never be up to his level. He is very powerful and he deems Karen a nobody. He already has several iterations of himself. He has gathered vast knowledge that he already accepts the fact that Alice cannot be saved. He is still hell-bent on saving her, even if it means the end of the world. Karen attacks Yuito and his team. His powers amplify and he manages to grab Yuito and Kasan. He drags them into the dimensional plane and he tries to absorb their powers. Yuito and Kasan start to see images of Nagi and Naomi. They realize that Karen needs to move on just like they did. Kasan has found a way to accept her sister's death. Yuito has also accepted his friend's death. Karen needs to find a memory of Alice that will make him accept her death. Karen is still not ready to accept. He tries to take the red strings from the two, but they manage to evade him. It is now time to fight fire with fire. They manage to scour Karen's memory to show him how lovely Alice was. Karen sees a scene where Alice is discussing with Fubuki. Alice says Karen is always trying to save her. She would appreciate it if Karen worried more about himself than he worried about her. She doesn't want to lose Karen. These words get to Karen and he starts to cry. Karen falls to his knees and the trio leaves the dimensional plane. They believe that everything is over, and Karen has accepted what cannot be changed. However, Karen snaps again. He grabs Yuito and starts to siphon his powers. He has successfully copied Yuito's red strings also. Now he has Kasan's red strings and that of Yuito. He believes that he will not fail on his quest this time around. The team realizes that Karen is far gone and they no longer have any choice but to apply force. They activate the SAS to gain control of Karen's body. They use a heavy block to try and pin him down, but Karen maneuvers out from under the structure and appears in front of Yuito. He is about to attack Karen when Fubuki arrives and stops him. Fubuki manages to convince Karen that Alice is gone and they need to live in the present without her. It would break Alice's heart to see him like this. Fubuki says these words with tears rolling down his eyes. Karen finally comes to his senses and realizes that he has gone too far. Yuito and the rest then tell him that his help is needed to close the gate. Karen falls on Fubuki because he is exhausted already. Everywhere starts to shake, and Yuito suffers another severe headache. The gate starts to grow beyond comprehension, and there is nothing more the researchers can do about it. Yuito has passed out, and he is resting in his room. Karen wakes up the following morning and Fubuki tells him that the others have not attacked since yesterday also. Karen wonders if the others fear the gate just like the humans do. Karen agrees to unravel his entanglement in order for the gate to close. Later on, Yuito wakes up and he is welcomed by Karen and Fubuki. Karen tells him that his help will be needed in the operation. They have drafted out a plan to close the gate and also destroy the extinction belt in one swoop. Everybody will contribute to it. Arahabaki's output has been amplified and they will need Kasane and Yuito to sustain it. It is very risky, but Yuito is ready to do anything to make sure that the operation succeeds. The team will have to support them via the SAS. When the rest of the team learns that Yuito is participating in the operation, they look worried because Yuito is very weak. They tried to convince him, but Yuito has made up his mind and there is no one that can change it. Preparations for the operation begin. The two nations have gathered their defensive force to support the team. The team soon connects with Yuito, Karen, and Kasane via the SAS. The OSF and Siran forces are on standby in case the others show up. Kasane and Yuito power up and attack the extinction belt first. The belt starts to move in the direction of the gate. The gate is already consuming the extinction belt and everything seems to be going on fine until Yuito passes out. The others emerge and the forces stay in position to intercept them. They must not interfere with the operation. Yuito finds himself in another plane, but he soon regains consciousness. Yuito gives it his all, and the extinction is moved under the gate, consumes the belt and the others with it. What's next is to go to the Chronos Termina to unravel the remaining entanglements. Just then, Karen turns on them and knocks the duo out of the operating system. He says he can't give up hope, but this will be his final trip. He disappears into the gate afterward. He gets into the gate and unravels his entanglement. Shortly afterward, the gate disappears and the sky turns blue again. This brings relief to everybody watching. The team is happy to have pulled it off. Karen also deserves his praise. Fubuki wishes that Karen could see how beautiful everything is from where he is standing. In the next scene, we see Yuito meeting Kasane. Yuito is now in a wheelchair per the doctor's instructions. The duo travels to OSFHQ together. It is a day to discharge the new recruits. They meet up with the rest of their friends there. Shadeen has been promoted to the position of commander. He still remains ambitious because he plans to become OSF chief one day. Later that day, we get to see Alice and Fubuki together. Alice now has her own platoon. Wait a minute, how is Alice here? It turns out that Karen was able to do what he has always wanted to. He brought Alice back against all odds. Alice and Fubuki are set to marry. The wedding is being planned and the team can't wait to see the duo tie the knot. Up next, we learn that Luca has been promoted to regiment commander. On the other hand, Yuito is leaving the OSF. He has plans to go to college after he leaves. Luca has plans to make the duds feel better. He wants to eradicate the segregation that has been there from day one. While Luca is discussing with Kasane and Yuito, we get to find out that he doesn't know who Karen is again. He only knows that he owes his life to someone close to him. After Kasane and Yuito leave the office, we learn from their conversation that everybody else has also forgotten about Karen. It's like he never existed. The only people who remembered him were the team members. This is probably because they were attached to the SAS together. It turns out that Karen swapped his existence for Karen. However, everyone else has forgotten about Karen and this leaves only Yuito and Kasane to remember him. Kasane and Yuito plan to forge a new future together. As the duo leaves the building, they run into Kyoka and Kagero. Kagero talks about the new program the government started. Yuito is to head the program. It turns out that all the moon immigrants who were in deep sleep woke up when Babe was shut down. Yuito has been put in charge. Kagero is still contemplating whether he will return to the moon or not. He doesn't know how his family is faring or holding up, but he is still reluctant about going. However, he is open to going if the government permits him. Later on, Kasane reveals her intentions to go to the moon. She knows it might be overrun by others as they speak, but she still wants to go. She will go alone at first. Because Yuito is now very weak and can't use his psionic powers, he has decided to go into politics. He wants to use that to forge a world where the government doesn't lie or spy on people. Kasane will take charge of the moon, while Yuito will take care of Earth. A vast distance might be between the duo, but they will continue to live in each other's world. Alice receives the alert of other sightings and leaves. She is still a member of OSF, she says. Meanwhile, Kaito is in prison for his crimes while he was in government. He sees a childhood picture of his family, and this brings a smile to his face. At this point, we have reached the end of our video. If you like it, do not forget to put the like button and subscribe for more new videos.